Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. It's the middle of the week, Wednesday, September 17th, 2025, 712 days of war, violence, ethnic cleansing, and what an increasing number of experts around the world are calling genocide in Gaza. Speaking of Gaza, over the last 24 hours, it was reported that 62 people were killed by the Israeli Defense Forces in Gaza since the start of the day, including 40 in Gaza City. That update at the end of the day became 98 Palestinians over a period of 24 hours, where 385 were wounded. Additionally, it said 4 people died from starvation and malnutrition in the last 24 hours. Even Israeli news is talking about how the situation in Gaza is indescribable. There was a recent article on the cover of Haaretz that said, in Gaza, the so-called evacuation of civilians is a trail of bombs and death. Gaza is being wiped off the map, stone by stone. Words are losing their meaning and can no longer convey what's happening, a resident wrote. I sent my family south. A friend texted me yesterday morning, but I stayed in Gaza City to say goodbye to its streets and to mourn it. I'm sitting alone in my father's house, thinking about the city's few landmarks that are still standing. I don't know what I'll do tomorrow. Will my longing for my family prevail? Then I will head south too. Or will I have the courage to stay until my blood, bones, and flesh mix with the dust and ash of Gaza as it is erased from the world, stone by stone? It's been 2 years or so since I've been in Gaza. The last 3 years, I guess. The last time I was there was 2022. I remember Gaza City well. I remember thinking that the view of the Mediterranean, one would mistake it for an Italian countryside on the Mediterranean if you did not know that you were actually in the Gaza Strip. The place is beautiful and the people are beautiful, and it is being erased stone by stone. The health ministry in Gaza said that the Israeli Defense Forces are blocking the World Health Organization fuel from reaching hospitals in Gaza City. The health ministry also said the Israeli Defense Forces bombed the Rantisi Children's Hospital on Tuesday night. 40 hospitalized patients were forced to flee. The Israeli army pushed further into Gaza City today. The invasion is fully underway. The ground invasion, that is. This is the second day of the ground offensive in the metropolitan area. According to hospital officials, the overnight strikes killed at least 16 people, with more than half of the deaths occurring specifically in Gaza City. The health ministry said that there were multiple Israeli airstrikes that hit the Rantisi Hospital for Children in Gaza City late yesterday. The IDF warned Palestinian citizens in the city, Gaza City, earlier today to leave through the Salah ad-Din road, and that they have the next 48 hours to do so. Northern Gaza's cell phone and internet services were cut, according to local and international news agencies. Several aid groups that are operating in Gaza City have suspended or greatly curtailed what remains of their operations in the city. This is in response to the ground offensive having begun. Sean Carroll mentioned this. He's a colleague, someone we respect greatly, from ANERA, the American Near East Refugee Aid Agency. They do phenomenal work. He's their president and CEO. He made the statement, and the UN security announcements reviewed by the Washington Post concurred. The International Committee of the Red Cross said it plans to continue work despite the bombardment. The Israeli military yesterday that claimed that there are 350,000 Gaza City residents who've now evacuated from the city. I believe that number was 600,000 plus that needed to be evacuated if the entire community that was located there was going to be relocated prior to the offensive. Netanyahu said Israel's making efforts to open additional routes to facilitate quicker evacuation. One of the things that we've talked about is that there is what's considered an escape route, and if residents don't take it, they will be considered enemy combatants and shot and killed. Gaza City residents are describing the overnight Israeli airstrikes as pure hell. Separately, Tess Ingram, a UNICEF spokesperson, said it's inhumane to expect nearly 500,000 children to evacuate to coastal refugee camps. They are unsafe. The refugee camps overcrowded and ill-equipped to receive them. I gave the report a few days ago about families saying that they had gone to these refugee camps, they'd gone to these humanitarian centers, and the conditions were so bad they decided to return, knowing that the Israeli military would be in North Gaza and in Gaza City, but they still decided to return. Satellite imagery yesterday captured Israeli armored vehicles gathered on nearly all sides of Gaza City, according to analysts and a commercial satellite company. Finance Minister in Israel, Smotrich, said that the Gaza Strip has become a real estate bonanza and that negotiations have begun with the United States regarding a business plan for Gaza. God have mercy. In Israel, a leading analyst wrote an op-ed for Haaretz that was entitled, "Global Outrage at Israel is about Gaza, not anti-Semitism." Israel's official stance is that European leaders are threatening sanctions over Gaza just because they're an anti-Semitic mob, too blinded by Jew hatred and Muslim minorities to see that they are siding with evil. In reality, opinion polls around the world suggest otherwise. Hostage families are continuing to protest outside of Netanyahu's Jerusalem residence. About 200 protesters, in fact. They include family members of hostages. They're at his residence. Michael Elise, the father of hostage Guy Elise, who was killed on October 7th and whose body remains in Gaza, addressed Netanyahu and his wife saying, "Do you care that my child is rotting there in Gaza? What's important for you is appropriating more roads, more government, more power, and more power for yourselves." Elise called on Sarah Netanyahu to come explain to us how you sleep at night when we have not been able to sleep for 2 years. We are here to stay. In the broader Middle East, a senior Hamas official made a public appearance in a news interview following the Doha attack. His name is Ghazi Hamad. He's a member of the Hamas negotiating team who was targeted in Israel's assassination attempts in Doha last week. He was interviewed by Al Jazeera on Wednesday night, making his first public appearance since the attack. And in Lebanon, 2 people were killed by an Israeli drone strike. This, I presume, I thought this would be in the south of Lebanon. It was not. It was in Baalbek in the Al-Asira neighborhood in Baalbek. Under U.S. pressure, Syria is speeding up talks with Israel on a security pact that Damascus hopes would roll back Israel's recent land seizures. You may not know that Israel has taken control of land that was either previously contested or Syrian land. The pact would fall short of a full peace treaty. An Israeli security source said that the U.S. is pressuring Syria to accelerate the security deal. This is personal for Trump. Israel is not offering much. Some sources said Trump is pushing for progress ahead of the UN General Assembly later this month. Israeli Strategic Affairs Minister Dermer, Syrian Foreign Minister Assad al-Shabani, and U.S. Envoy Tom Barak are discussing Israel's proposal for the security agreement. This was presented to Damascus a few weeks ago. They're discussing it in London today, actually. The Israeli proposal asks Syria to agree to a broad demilitarized zone and a no-fly zone on its territory, with no changes being made on the Israeli side of the border. Syrian President Shara says that talks with Israel could yield results in coming days. He said that today on Wednesday in relation to the security pact. He described the pact as a necessity and said that it would need to respect Syria's airspace and territorial unity and to be monitored by the UN. Shara added that there was no pressure on Damascus to reach a deal with Israel from Washington. In Yemen, Israel's military said yesterday that it had struck targets at the Hudaydah port in Yemen, where it claimed that there were links to Houthi rebels. Houthi-linked broadcaster Al Masirah TV reported that at least 12 strikes had hit the port. It's also being reported that Britain plans to recognize a Palestinian state this weekend. Prime Minister Starmer has said that he will recognize the state after U.S. President Donald Trump's state visit, according to British newspaper The Times. According to the report, an announcement was postponed until after the visit due to concerns that the issue would dominate the leader's press conference that is currently scheduled for Thursday. In July, Starmer announced that Britain would recognize a Palestinian state before the UN General Assembly if Israel did not take significant steps to improve the, quote, appalling situation in Gaza, end quote. UK ambassador to Israel, Simon Walters, said that the UK's recognition of a Palestinian state is not intended as a threat. It's intended as a positive gesture. Our recognition will be a demonstration of our commitment to a peaceful future for 2 peoples living side by side in peace. An EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Kallas, today announced a proposal for the bloc to downgrade its trade ties with Israel. This is the EU High Representative on Foreign Affairs, to downgrade their trade ties with Israel and to sanction the National Security Minister Ben-Gvir and Finance Minister Smotrich over the humanitarian situation in Gaza. EU member countries must still approve the proposed measures. Several European countries yesterday did condemn Israel's launch of a ground offensive in Gaza. UK Foreign Secretary Cooper called the offensive utterly reckless and appalling. Germany's Foreign Minister Wadapul called Israel, saying that they were on the wrong path. And so Europe is responding at least verbally, if not in action. I already mentioned the free trade agreements with Israel being under question by the European Commission because of the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and the call for the sanctioning of the far-right ministers. Japan has said that it will not recognize a Palestinian state, with the decision likely taken to preserve Tokyo's ties with the United States. And a group of critically ill, injured children from Gaza just arrived in the UK for medical treatment alongside of their immediate families. The World Health Organization said it supported these 10 medical evacuations of children who would be in critical condition. The children were evacuated alongside of 50 of their companions. In the US, J.D. Vance has said he shares the right wing's frustration at some level amid debates over the influencer Charlie Kirk's positions on Israel. This came as leading figures in the GOP have been dueling in the foreign policy camps, and these conversations have become increasingly heated over U.S. right-wing Christian influencer Charlie Kirk's proposals on Israel. You'll recall that Kirk was killed last week. To my friends on the political right, I understand the feeling that people are putting words into Charlie Kirk's mouth. At some level, I agree, and I share your frustration. Try to remember, a lot of people loved Charlie. It is natural for them to debate his views and his legacies. In fact, I think Charlie would welcome that. But for now, let's celebrate our friend, remember his impact, and save the debate for after his funeral. Those were the words of Vice President Vance. Wanted to close just with a little update from Churches for Middle East Peace. I mentioned last night that we launched our Armenian Advisory Council. Armenian Christians are so significant in terms of the fabric of Christianity throughout the Middle East. In the Old City of Jerusalem, one of the quarters of the Old City is the Armenian quarter. It is currently under threat. As are Christians who remain in Beirut. There are Armenians in Syria, there are Armenians in Iraq, in Egypt, and in other parts of the Middle East. So we launched the CMEP Armenian Advisory Council last night in New York City. I told the story of Armenian Saint Ripsime, who was martyred because of her faithfulness to Christ around the 4th century, just prior to Armenia becoming the first Christian state in the world. Ripsime is one of my personal heroes, and I've been very moved by her story and witness. In addition to the Armenian Advisory Council, CMEP also has a Catholic Advisory Council, and just this month we launched a Presbyterian Advisory Council. If you're interested in engaging with us through your local church or denomination, reach out to us at our email, info@cmep.org. We would love to work with you. We'd love to engage with you in your local church communities to equip you with resources and to help you engage in advocacy and efforts towards peace. So may God go before us. May peace come quickly. Lord God, protect the people of Gaza. Be with all who are suffering and end the horrible atrocities that are continuing day after day after day. In the name of Christ, amen.